liberty, and camp. I must assume all of us know Africa. Right? Yes, let me assume. We all know Africa, and then let me assume we all know literally the word camp. So let me focus a little bit about liberty. Okay? Liberty. And try to bring a small highlight as we go into discussions. The discussions may get deeper and go into entrepreneurship, go into leadership and the likes, but then it is key to know the birthing factor that is liberty. Now, to begin with, liberty is a political philosophy. Now, when I come like that, at times now start envisioning it. I think we have a political scientist here, Ellen. You know, when we talk about politics, most times some of us want to only look at the electoral drama, you know, MPs getting out of parliament when they're not in agreement with staff and the likes. We so much give accolade to the individual that society, the world, everything commences from the uniqueness of that important sapient called an individual. I want us to be careful here because our upbringing to some point gets us diluted to shadow our identity as an individual into religion, into family, into a continent, into a country, into, you know, something like that, into a profession. That somewhere, somehow you feel proud calling yourself an engineer and you're not proud calling yourself a dumb author with your skills, with your staff and the likes. So the most important, the beginning engine is the individual. Okay? The individual. And then next to that, of course, we do understand the individual does not live or thrive alone. They coexist with others, okay? But then to coexist with others, we understand we are different. Now, for us being different and to coexist with others, we believe in exchanging differences to merge up some. Now, the process of exchanging has to be, first of all, voluntary, okay? But then again, it has to be value for value. Now, that brings us into an understanding of what we call a free market. Now, most times when we talk about free market and people are hearing it, they're saying, oh, this is all about, anti-government and the likes. But then it largely comes with the voluntary exchange, the non-coerced exchange. So we do understand that the individual is very important, but then again the individual is different with other individuals, but then they have to coexist with other individuals, but then in the coexistence they coexist by exchanging value because we believe in appreciation. Okay? But then also value, we understand that value is created. Not so. Value is created, though I don't want us to go largely into that aspect. Value is created, nurtured, and owned. So there are those aspects of rule of law which embody aspects of property rights. A lot will be shared. I don't want to go into much. So why I largely emphasize on the individualism, that is the uniqueness that's going to make you leave this camp as either a changed sapient or, because that's the most important thing, you're here as an individual. In as much as we're seeing ourselves as 50 here, you are a one individual in a society of other 50 different individuals. Please and please, this is some battle that I got with the first time I interacted with the libertarian ideas. Because our upbringing has this entire, you're raised in a classroom, you're putting on the same uniform, you're being taught the same curriculum, you're being done this entire, so you think you're equal. But then we're here to tell you, no, you're not. You are that individual who is different. So when looking at Uganda, okay, you may be Uganda, that's a geographical, relation, but when it comes to a dumb other, I'm different from you, different from me. If you understand that, that will be the spark of actually trying to look at it. And then you now have to realize that what is so important for my difference to shape value and exchange with others, it's freedom. By the fact that something else is shadowing your identity or understanding of your unique difference, that is now the symbol that you lack a little bit of freedom. If your decisions are being based on, let's say, your religious upbringing, if the decisions that you're making in your life are based on your family pressure, then there is a question of freedom around that. That's now where liberty has to come and stand in. And that's why we are here. To first break that chain that is trying to, debunch. We are not attacking anything, but rather we are just creating the light. And you find the way. We are not here to show you a way. We are to shine the light and you find a way. right? That is the important thing. And then of course, as I talked about free markets, then we do understand that yes, we do have differences, but then human beings can go extreme, right? My difference can be a comparative advantage that is above yours, and then I use my difference to suppress you. So there is something that has to come and keep me in my own strength, and also keep in your own strength, and only facilitate the exchange. And that is what we now bring in the rule of law. That laws are so much important to keep me in my freedom. Brief hint, and then the discussions are largely now going to go into those angles. If you guys are going deep into markets, because we know it's through markets that society is changed. So larger presentations we're going to actually markets, leadership and the likes, but those are the hinges. Please and please, if you're to take anything from this camp, you have to know that life begins from the individual spectrum. It's that one individual who cooperates with the different individuals and they create a society. But that should not disregard your uniqueness as an individual. The we effect has been so popular. There's that philosopher who echoes the power of the crowd. The we effect is so popular that you find yourself comfortable when it is the we. But then when you come to the I, you realize you really have to do something. Now here, we first disassociate you from the we and get to the I and start communicating from the basic principles of society. And not to waste time, as I say, I'm going to invite one person to give us an overview, because the Liberty Campus was said it has scaled for now. This is the 11th episode. I'm glad to have attended quite a number of them, but then I want to give a lot of accolade to one important individual in this circle, whom I'm going to welcome to actually guide us through, and that is Mugabe John. He will give his general stuff, but I want to appreciate John for the entire idea and the knowledge. So, John, please come and give us a hint, an overview, why the Liberty comes, and then
thank you very much. This is our 11th Liberty Cup. But why are we interested every year to cooperate, to mobilize, to fundraise, to call, and to bring everyone on board so that we can invite students and young professionals and other youth to understand these ideas? We don't just do it, but we are a testimony, and we have lived through it, and that's why we want to see the young people understanding the ideas. So we work with different organizations and we invite people. But every year, the ideas turn into life. People start applying it, and that's why we say, why should you be at Africa Liberty Camp? And I think many who are those, this is your first time to be at Africa Liberty Camp. It's great, we have many who are at Africa Liberty Camp. We have seen our fellow partners also from Sudan. Those ones are one of the big ones of this camp, and we believe it will start rotating. We shall now say, if we agree the organizer, let's go to South Sudan, and then maybe we shall be able to understand the challenges there. If there are bullets flying over our head, then we shall appreciate the African problem as they are. It started from here in Uganda. 2013, it never started in 2013, but these ideas, as they say in 2013, we received. I was a good president at Chapel University in 2013. And I always share this at Africa Liberty Camp. Like all of you, when you reach university, and most of those who are interested, you feel like it's going to be the greatest opportunity to influence and even change the world. So, 2013, I was at university, and I said, I have to become a leader so that I make this university what I want it to be. In my own understanding, I thought the university should be a free place where students don't need to be just away from tuition. And I grew up saying education should be free. How many of you here think education should be free? Be free to raise up your hand. Yeah, many. And that was me also thinking that education should be free. But I never thought who should pay for that education. I thought there is a person or a responsibility should be given to the government so that I study and become what I want. So I used to blame the government. Why are they chasing students here? So I discovered that. And in 2013, a guy came from Nigeria with book and then said, I want to meet the girl president at Chamber University. And he said, because I was an activist, I was known with the girl president. Everyone knows that you can move things within 1 to 3 hours. So when he came, he told us that we have to organize a seminar or a conference. And then, because I was so much excited with ideas, I said, I have to be part of this. And we organized a simple conference, 2013, with some students. Madame Josephine was also a first year student. I was in second year. She's now my wife. You know, this is the fruits we get from this Liberty Lecture. We organized, we had Joram was there, and some others. And we had this conference, and then this guy told us, who are those who are believing that this university should be for free? Of course, all of us will say, why are we paying? And then who also asked, who are those who believe the government should care about our life? And all of us said, yeah, that is the society we want, where when I wake up, I find a good road, but I also make sure government has put everything I need in my life at the doorway. So he said, who are those who are believing that capitalism is bad? I was number one to raise, to say no, capitalism, because it sounded bad. And then I didn't understand it, and I said, I'm a socialist. I do believe that community should be equal. Why are we having rich people and then the poor? How many of you believe, be honest with yourself and how you think, that we should live in an equal society? Feel free to raise up your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. They believe we should live in an equal society where all of us are the same. Not so. We eat the same food, we drive the same. That is the heaven we think on earth. So that's how I also believed. But later, the guy challenged me and he said, why do you want an equal society? And then I said, in an equal society, all of us we shall be the same. And I think if we are all the same, we shall not have different problems. If we can all get the food, we can all dress, we can all eat the same, we can all go to the same bar, take the same beer, we can all be able to fly together. If we don't have one, let us all not fly. If we don't have meat, let us the whole village not eat meat. But then I was looking at society as a community, a collective, and I thought the best society we could have is where all of us will live the same way and we also think and achieve the same way. But later I discovered that an individual is the most important unit of the society. But later I thought it is community or let it be family. But then I also discovered, this is what I've seen like 7 people saying we should be equal. I discovered that in our creation, we were created differently. Even if we are brothers. Some of you are pursuing law, others are more interested in IT, others are interested in something social or ecological thing. That's what excites you. So I said, if everyone is given freedom to pursue what he or she feels, shall we be equal? If you become a lawyer and then you are motivated, you want to see justice, you are going to be a force to see that there is justice. There is no more killing, there is no corruption. You are going to ensure that the legal system works. Then what will be the fruits? Will they be the same as a teacher? Or then there are people who are not so much excited with life. They don't mind even if they eat or don't eat enough or whatever. But there are those who have that interest, that self-centeredness, that, let me call it selfishness, to wake up and drive themselves to achieve something. But then there are those who are not also excited. They say, well, I'm more comfortable with how I am. So if we say, let us put a law which makes everyone equal, the force which lives within these people, the motivation and that self-interest cannot be made equal. Because once we make it equal, we are going to kill the energy, the talents, and then we shall end up in a society which cannot innovate, which cannot discover, which does not allow being different. And so I accepted that inequality is part of nature. It's not created by a policy, and we shouldn't think of a policy. That was me after getting introduced into those ideas. And this was not importing ideas from outside, but it was discovering how life is. It was discovering nature, and it was also discovering what I call the individualism which lives in all of us. And that individualism is what drives us to achieve or not to achieve. And the moment we legislate a law to make all of us equal in terms of achieving, then we are doomed. We are going to have a society where we shall not have all this uniqueness, where the projector and the computer may not be innovated or invented, because we shall all be under the same law. We shall all be aspiring to live equally. And yet, even in our family where we are born together, everyone, if he has freedom or she has freedom, she will take the course she wants. So I said life is about me, and it's about the interest I have. So once I discovered that, it changed the way how I was looking at life and advocating. And this is what is going to happen to you. You people who are saying society should be equal, you are going to discover, not by faith, not by praying or going to prayer mountain or to the mosque, but by investigating and getting this knowledge, and then by reasoning, as others said, you are going to discover that once we have freedom to become what we want, we are going to have a very diverse uniqueness, where one is going to be a musician, and one is going to be a driver, one is going to be a farmer. And we should allow that diversity and inequality to thrive. And once we attempt to kill it in the name of being equal, it will not work. That's not how society should be. So it changed me. Then when I came to the economy, why are other people poor? Why are others rich? I always give this testimony. I came from a humble family, humble background, but we had neighbors. These neighbors were very, very, very rich in Entebbe, in a place called Twafu Village. And our parents were also working, but they started developing, is it envy? Envy. Those are thieves. The rich people were called thieves. Said those are people who don't care, they think about money. And then I grew up thinking a rich person will not even go to heaven, is as what sometimes theology say. But this was because of the community I came from, where the rich people were regarded to be people who don't care, people who don't love. But when I discovered that one of the rich neighbor had a supermarket, and in this supermarket, even my parent was praying, I wish I could go there and buy things. But then he calls this guy who started the supermarket a bad person, because he believed that we were all supposed to be equal. He's having a lot, he should distribute it among the stars. So this person being unequal to us made our community to develop this animosity and envy. So I thought as a person that the rich people are the problem. But later I discovered This is where free market, as I said, starts from. I discovered that when there is a good environment for everyone to pursue what he or she loves, aspire, according to his or her selfishness or self-drive, then everyone is going to be an innovator, a creator, inventor, and an innovator.